This was the beginning of 2020. You know what I mean? Diddy had put everybody else out the crib, like the influx of people, he had put them out. But he had took a liking to me in particular around the time, man. It was really, you know what I mean, like putting his arm around me.
Right.
So he had put majority of the people out, but he allowed me to stay in there. Me and, you know, maybe about 15 others, you know.
Right.
Jay-Z and Beyonce being, you know, two of the other 15 people in the room. So that'll just put it into perspective of the type of company I was in.
I heard that there's supposed to be some tapes or something that's coming out real soon, and I guess we'll all really know the truth if anything's on those tapes.
Just when you thought the Diddy drama was the peak of hip-hop chaos, Dababy just dropped a bomb that's turning heads everywhere. In a wild turn of events, Dababy is now pointing fingers at none other than Jay-Z, claiming that Hav might be even worse than Diddy behind the scenes. Yeah, you read that right. With the industry already in flames over the serious allegations surrounding Diddy, Dababy's bold claims about Jay-Z are adding gas to the fire. And fans are shook. From shady deals to behind-closed-doors behavior and how he treats his own wife, Dababy isn't holding back, and what he's saying could change how people view one of the most powerful men in music. So what did Dababy really say, and could there be truth to it? Let's break it down, because this just took the industry drama to a whole new level. Just when we thought the truth bombs couldn't get any heavier in the music industry, Dababy has stepped into the ring, and he's not holding back. With all eyes already on Sean Diddy Combs and the disturbing allegations of exploitation, trafficking, and manipulation coming to light, Dababy is now shifting the spotlight onto Jay-Z. And what he's suggesting? It's even darker. Now listen, Dababy isn't new to the game. He's spent years navigating the music industry from the inside out. He's been in the rooms, had the conversations, done the deals, and seen firsthand how things really work behind the polished public image. According to him, what the world is just now finding out about Diddy, he's been watching that play out for years. From how Diddy exploited young artists to how power is weaponized in the business, Dababy's been clocking it all. He's seen the manipulation, the control, the lies, and he's been hinting that he's had enough, but now he's taking it a step further. With Diddy's name already dragged through the mud, Dababy is turning his attention to Jay-Z, and he's coming with heavy accusations. Word is, Dababy's not just speculating, he's heard things, he's seen things, and he's ready to talk. And if what he's alluding to is true, Jay-Z may be hiding behind a much cleaner image than he deserves. Now, this is not all hearsay. Dababy himself has talked in detail about how he has been there himself, in instances where Jay tried to pimp his wife. We've all heard the whispers about Diddy's infamous late-night parties, the ones draped in glitz, glamour, and a heavy dose of secrecy. But now, Dababy is breaking the silence with explosive claims that pull back the velvet curtain on what really went down behind those mansion doors. And let's just say, it's not the kind of Hollywood glamour people expect. This is dark, messy, and way deeper than we thought. In a recent interview, Dababy opened up nervously, carefully, but unmistakably, about a wild night at Diddy's mansion in 2020. You could see by the way he spoke that he wanted to say more but was unable to do so. He did, however, disclose Beyonce, Jay-Z, and other celebrities you would expect to see mingling in the corridors of music aristocracy. It seemed to be a regular high-end business meeting at first, complete with champagne flowing, gorgeous people, music, and luxury. Then, however, the energy changed. The atmosphere apparently became odd as the evening went on, and the informal partygoers began to depart. The rooms became quieter, the throng dwindled, and Dababy made it clear that not everyone was interested in what transpired after hours. He talked of a spooky tension, as if something unsaid was taking place just outside his eyes. The message was obvious, even if he didn't state it directly. Diddy wouldn't want the world to know what he witnessed. The worst thing is that Dababy almost admitted he was being prepared for what many now call Diddy's freak-offs, a kind of after-party. According to reports, such covert events were full of a small group of artists, strange demands, and very dubious conduct. Dababy's body language throughout the conversation adds to the coldness. He seemed uneasy, defensive, and perhaps afraid. It's not the arrogant, brazen rapper we're accustomed to. It speaks a lot that he seemed to be controlled by the recollections alone. Did he voluntarily participate? An onlooker, a casualty of the twisted games that could have been played at these high-level events. Though he didn't state it directly, he expressed enough, and now that more survivors are coming out and Diddy's defenses are becoming stronger, Dababy's testimony may be one of the most important parts of the jigsaw yet. This is about truth, power, and a culture of silence that is now beginning to break. It is no longer simply about celebrity rumors. What transpired that night at one of Diddy's ultra-prevalent freak-off parties that left Dababy visibly disturbed, fumbling over his sentences, and obviously uncomfortable, Dababy provided just enough information for people to make the connection, but he didn't reveal every somber detail. He said that the evening got off to a nice start and was simply another star-studded party at Diddy's extravagant home. A-list celebrities like Jay-Z and Beyoncé stroll around the party like kings and queens. The atmosphere? High prestige, exclusive, and glamorous. However, as the evening wore on, something much more sinister than champagne and selfies occurred. According to Dababy, the gathering gradually began to dwindle out. Diddy eventually ensured that everyone else had left, except for a few chosen individuals. The energy changed at that point. Puff drew very near as the lights dimmed and the music grew quieter.
He had put everybody else out the crib, like the influx of people he had put him out. But he had took a liking to me in particular around the time, man. It was really, you know what I mean, like putting his arm around.
Dababy said it like he didn't even want to be repeating it. You could hear the tension in his voice, the way someone talks when they're tiptoeing around trauma, afraid to fully unpack it on camera. And that right party, he was allegedly testing boundaries. Dababy didn't use words like assault or coercion, but the implication was loud and clear. And what makes it even more disturbing? The fact that Jay-Z and Beyoncé were there. Now look, Jay-Z has always had a reputation as a calculating power player in the music industry. That's no secret. But in recent years, more people have started to question just how much influence and control he's had, not just over young artists, but even over his own wife. Beyoncé is undoubtedly a queen in her own right, a megastar who redefined the industry, but people are starting to wonder how much of her image, brand, and even public decisions have been filtered through Jay-Z's lens. Let's not forget, Jay-Z is older than Beyoncé, and when they first connected, she was barely an adult, still finding her voice. He was already a kingmaker in the business. That power imbalance raises serious questions now, especially with stories like Dababy's floating to the surface. So imagine Dababy, still rising, still figuring it all out, finding himself alone at Diddy's house with one of the most powerful men in music wrapping his arm around him, while another power couple, Jay-Z and Beyoncé, look on from the sidelines. That's not just uncomfortable, that's terrifying. Was it silent complicity? Willful ignorance? Were they part of something bigger? Dababy's story is just one piece of a puzzle that's starting to come together, and the picture isn't pretty. It's not just about one bad night, it's about a culture of control, exploitation, and silence that's been protected for far too long by wealth, fame, and fear. And if even Dababy, a man known for his tough exterior and bold personality, was this shook by went down, it makes you wonder how many others were there and just never said a word, and fans can see it from a mile away. One person said, "Bey and Jay have never ever gave me in love no kind of attraction to each other. No affection, no hugs, no nothing. They never even acted like a couple. He has always acted like he's just in charge, and that's it in my opinion." Another wrote, "Now a Solange going crazy on Jay-Z makes sense. Does he belong to Diddy's club? He's going to lose if he touches Beyoncé." Dababy is implying that Hav's hands may not be as clean as fans believe, citing dubious transactions with up-and-coming musicians, as well as suspected manipulation and backroom maneuvers that never garnered media attention. And his statements are striking a different chord as someone who has seen firsthand how this business really operates.
It was the beginning of 2020. You know what I mean? Diddy had put everybody else out the crib, like the influx of people he had put him out. But he had took a liking to me in particular around the time, man. It was really, you know what I mean, like putting his arm around me.
Right.
So he had put majority of the people out, but he allowed me to stay in there. Me and, you know, maybe about 15 others, you know.
Right.
Jay-Z and Beyonce being, you know, 2 of the other 15 people in the room. So that'll just put it into perspective of the type of company I was in.
Dababy's warning: if you believed the Diddy incident to be the pinnacle of music business corruption, you're wrong. Jay-Z's is only getting started and might be the next. The 12-year age gap between Jay-Z and Beyonce is one aspect of their relationship that is sometimes overlooked. Jay-Z is precisely 12 years and 3 months older than Beyonce. Even though age differences aren't always an issue, this one raises considerable concerns when you consider the time and the early power disparity between them. Beyonce was still a teenager, just out of Destiny's Child, and still developing her own persona when the two first began hanging around. In contrast, Jay-Z was already a major player in the music business, a fully fledged individual with extensive connections in the business, records that reached the top of the charts, and significant behind-the-scenes influence. Furthermore, a lot of people now think that influence may have been a significant factor in their relationship dynamic from the beginning and wasn't only about business. Over the years, many have conjectured that Jay-Z started dating Beyonce while she was still very young, when the business was already sexualizing her, and that she may not have had the mental capacity or life experience to resist. The time has never been clear. He was a gatekeeper, she was the next big thing, and now, in hindsight, it feels less like a romance and more like a calculated move by someone in a dominant position of power. Critics argue that Jay-Z had a lot of control over her early on, professionally and personally. From shaping her public image to influencing the business side of her career, there's growing concern that he didn't just support Beyonce's rise, he may have managed and manipulated it to his own benefit. And with new conversations surfacing around exploitation in the music industry, some are starting to wonder if Beyonce was also caught in a power dynamic that looked like love on the outside, but may have been something else entirely behind closed doors. What's becoming clear is this: when one person has that much power, experience, and access, and the other is just beginning to navigate a very dangerous industry, things get complicated fast. And what once looked like a fairy tale to fans now feels more like a carefully controlled narrative.
Sean Carter is worse.
Uh-oh. Oh, man.
He's smarter. He's patient. He's not sloppy.
Who mechanization is that? Like
That was all Sean Carter's idea. He's probably the one that groomed Justin and make him so pliable so that they could pimp him out at all these damn music festivals. He would be the right guy for the job.
Other than Jaguar, there's one other man. In 2015, former Arkansas governor and Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee discovered a new approach to get attention and set himself apart from then-President Obama by criticizing pop culture's power couple Jay-Z and Beyonce rather than policy. In addition to political talking points, Huckabee offers a startling indictment of the Carters, namely Jay-Z's contribution to Beyonce's success in his book, God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy, based on preliminary extracts that the U.S. Jay-Z is accused by Huckabee of taking advantage of Beyonce and effectively turning her into a split object in order to get notoriety, attention, and financial gain. According to Huckabee, Beyonce is very gifted and extremely talented. She can sing, and she has a great pair of pipes. She's also a fantastic dancer, however, she prefers to keep her explicit routines to her bedroom. Jay-Z is a very shrewd businessman, but I worry that he is crossing the line from husband to pimp by exploiting his wife as a B-object. That line set off a firestorm at the time. While some dismissed it as another attempt from a conservative politician to attack hip-hop culture, others found themselves asking, is there any truth to what he's saying? Huckabee's criticism wasn't just about music, it was about influence. He suggested that Beyonce's performances, especially those seen by young audiences like at award shows and the Super Bowl, were hyper-D-dad under Jay-Z's direction and monetized to boost the brand they built together. To Huckabee, this wasn't empowerment, it was commodification. Whether you agree with his framing or not, Huckabee's take added fuel to a conversation that's been quietly circulating in parts of the entertainment world. How much of Beyoncé's image is her own, and how much of it is carefully curated under Jay-Z's control? In hindsight, especially with all the recent allegations swirling around major industry figures including Diddy and now the growing speculation around Jay-Z, it makes Huckabee's commentary, controversial as it was, feel eerily ahead of its time. Mike Huckabee may have been right about one thing: Beyoncé is an insanely talented, strategic force in the music industry. But everything that followed in his 2015 critique gets messy. In God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy, Huckabee accused Jay-Z of crossing the line from husband to pimp, suggesting that he was exploiting Beyoncé by encouraging her to perform in a sexually expressive way. Beyoncé feels like some passive figure to many now who is on stage being choreographed and marketed by her husband. She's one of the most powerful, independent, creative minds in music. This is a woman who surprise dropped an entire visual album in the middle of the night without a single leak, redefined what a release strategy looks like, and curated every detail of her performances, image, and messaging, with Diddy now facing a wave of horrifying allegations involving abuse, trafficking, and manipulation. Eyes are turning toward others in the industry who have held massive power, including Jay-Z. Whispers, rumors, and now direct accusations from artists like Dababy have cast shadows over Jay's clean-cut business mogul image.
Because the Diddy. Ooh! Diddy done turned over tapes. Allegedly, with the Carters, it's some freak off. And the Beyonce. High on the cocaine. And the tapes had jizz all over.
And people started to realize that Dababy wasn't the only one who had seen or experienced something deeply off. Suddenly, old interviews, podcasts, and live streams started resurfacing, and one name in particular kept coming up: Jaguar Wright. Jaguar, the outspoken neo-soul singer known for exposing secrets the industry desperately wants to keep buried, had already sounded the alarm multiple times about Jay-Z's close connection to Diddy's underground party scene. Years ago, she called out the shady energy that surrounded those private, exclusive gatherings that only a select few artists and executives ever got invited to. "I've been saying this for years," Jaguar said in one explosive rant. "Jay-Z used to be at those Diddy parties all the time. Y'all just didn't want to hear it. And now, people are listening." Screenshots, photos, even video clips have started circulating online showing Jay-Z casually hanging out at Diddy's homes and events, well beyond the public album launches and business meetings. These weren't stage media moments, these were backdoor late-night get-togethers, the kind of spaces where what happens off-camera is the real story. Jaguar even hinted that there were witnesses and survivors who could confirm Jay-Z was more involved than the public has ever known. She stopped short of saying what exactly Jay did, but her tone was chilling. And with Jay Baby's recent story matching the same energy, people can't help but look at Jay-Z in a different light. It's no longer just about Diddy's twisted kingdom. The focus is widening, and Jay-Z's name is coming up more than ever. These revelations are forcing people to reconsider how deep The Rock goes in the music industry. If what Jaguar says is true, and Dababy's story lines up, then the biggest names in hip-hop aren't just industry giants, they're players in something much more disturbing. And the scariest part? We might have only scratched the surface. For decades, Diddy's parties have been the stuff of hip-hop legend. Extravagant, high-security affairs where only the elite were allowed past the velvet ropes. But behind the glitz and the glamour, behind the million-dollar views and champagne-soaked nights, there was something far more calculated happening. Diddy wasn't just hosting parties, he was documenting them, meticulously. Sources close to the scene have long whispered about how Diddy would record his events, sometimes under the guise of capturing memories or for security purposes. But it went beyond casual footage. We're talking about hidden cameras, discrete audio devices, and a private archive that is said to hold years' worth of content, featuring the biggest names in music, sports, and entertainment. And among those names, Jay-Z and Beyoncé. Jay, known for being intensely private and in control of his image, was no stranger to Diddy's circle. The two moguls have a long and intertwined history, both coming up in the golden age of hip-hop and carving out empires far beyond music. Naturally, Jay and Beyonce, arguably the most powerful couple in entertainment, were present at some of those exclusive gatherings, and there's proof of him pimping her out at these freak-offs. And while that in itself isn't shocking, the idea that their presence was captured on video, possibly in compromising or out-of-context scenarios, is a different story altogether. That's why, when Diddy's properties were raided by federal agents, it wasn't just bad news for him, it sent a chill through the industry. Behind closed doors, the panic was real. Word started to spread that authorities had seized hard drives, laptops, surveillance equipment, potentially containing everything Diddy had recorded over the years. The fear wasn't just about the legal implications for Diddy, but about what and who might be exposed by those recordings. It seems like Beyonce is just thinking about herself, since the streets claim that she simply snitched on her own husband, Jay-Z, to the federal government. As everyone is aware, there have been whispers that the Carters are just hanging on after a difficult period of time. It seems like Beyonce may be sick up with waiting around for so long, since rumors are circulating that she's snitched to the federal government, which Jay-Z is likely to find offensive. To no one's surprise, Diddy seems to be the connection between all of this. Nothing has ever been established to link Beyonce and Jay-Z to Diddy and his antics, despite the many allegations to the contrary. However, it seems that this is about to blow up in a big, bad manner since Beyonce spied on the federal government. Let's dissect this then. I'm simply telling you what the streets are saying, so don't come for me since this tea is supposed to be honest. It's easy to see why this is happening today. You see, the authorities are wrapping up all the loose ends in preparation for Diddy's trial, which is set to begin in just a few weeks. They are arranging for witnesses to testify against him as part of their preparations. Despite their long-standing efforts to keep things secret, some information has leaked to the public, including a report that Cassie would be testifying against Diddy on behalf of the government. Rumors regarding Beyonce's purported meeting with the federal government began to circulate as fans sought for more information about who would be testifying at the trial. Fans are certain that Beyonce may be on the list, which is not unexpected given that her name has been associated with this issue from the start. Many people tend to believe that Beyonce's association with Diddy is only due to Jay-Z. However, this is untrue since she was also friends with Diddy. Before things began to go wrong for Diddy, she and him seemed to have been really close. In one interview, Freddie P said that Diddy once forced him and several other bad boy musicians to travel 4 hours to buy a cheesecake from a certain bakery because Beyonce had a hankering and only wanted it from that location. Well, here's a fun detail that many people are unaware of. The cheesecake we purchased was for Beyonce. The whole time she was upstairs.
In fact, a lot of people don't know that cheesecake we went and got was for Beyonce. She was upstairs the whole time. What we was talking about again? Hold on. Yeah, that's a fun fact. People don't know. People like, y'all walked and got a cheesecake. It was for Beyonce. He told us to walk. He didn't tell us to walk back. So we already in the hotel like 3 hours before they got there. When they said they was coming, we went and met him in front of the building. And you know the first thing that nigga said out of his mouth? That nigga said, he said, we got the cheesecake. He was like, I want that shit. Take that shit upstairs for Beyonce. Then he said, they was like, yeah, man, we wanted to tell you, Fred and Dallon, they ain't walk back. You know, trying to be on some snitching shit. He's like, I ain't tell you niggas to walk back.
It is nothing new to treat his artists disrespectfully. For years, Diddy has been treating his musicians with more disdain and indifference than we could ever fathom. But requiring your artist to walk 4 hours for a cheesecake, in spite of all that? Yes, unless you're extremely friendly with the individual who wants the cheesecake, you don't do it. And that's just the beginning, as rumors circulated that Beyonce was attending Diddy's events. Although I am aware that the whole scenario escalated after Diddy was revealed, with stories circulating that half of Hollywood attended his crazy parties, Beyonce was the subject of these allegations before to Diddy's. Dababy even claimed that she attempted to approach Diddy at one of those events. He didn't use the phrase freak-off, but based on his description, it seemed fairly freak-off-ish. He had dated a lot of others, but he had developed feelings for me specifically at the moment.
I was at a party at Diddy crib in LA. This was the beginning of 2020. You know what I mean? Diddy had put everybody else out the crib, like the influx of people he had put him out. but he had took a liking to me in particular around the time, man. It was really, you know what I mean, like putting his arm around me.
Right.
So he had put majority of the people out, but he allowed me to stay in there. Me and, you know, maybe about 15 others, you know.
Right.
Jay-Z and Beyonce being, you know, 2 of the other 15 people in the room. So that'll just put it into perspective of the type of company I was in at the moment, you know. And she came over and introduced herself to me like as if she had to. Beyonce, cut it out. But I'm a big fan of your work, you know what I'm saying? Whoop the whoop, and that was just dope. That was dope as hell to me, man. That was dope. That was super dope.
Also was just recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes. So, which I declined that because...
Wait a minute, say that again. Say that again, back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but the shopping thing is...
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood, but one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became a public knowledge.
I've heard this before, so like a catch and kill.
Catch and kill, correct.
Wow, can you, and I guess you can't reveal the person who is on
No,
the
I can't explain who the person was, but Mr.
High profile?
Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really? Really? And you've seen it?
I've seen stills of the video.
Okay.
So
you can verify
that it exists, that it's real, that the other person in the video is very visible. It's no question if it's that person in the video. And I can tell the video was pornographic in nature.
Oh my, all right. So we know that he videotaped a lot of activities at his home, did he? And it sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes, this was actually in his Atlanta home, at a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video, so it's, to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotaping, like they're being surreptitiously recorded.
The Diddy. Oh, Diddy done turned over tapes. Allegedly, with the Carters, in some freak off. And the Beyonce. How on the cocaine? And the tapes had jizz all over it. Hold on.
Dude, you know what? It actually was. He placed his arm around me, for example. He let me remain in there even though he had evicted most of the folks. You know, myself and maybe 15 other people. The other 15 individuals in the room include Jay-Z and Beyonce. That will just give you an idea of the kind of business I was working for at the time. Furthermore, there were even reports that Bey was seen on camera at one of Diddy's parties doing, well, let's say things if you get my drift. So it doesn't end there. Additionally, I was just approached by someone who wants me to sell one of the Diddy cassettes on their behalf. Therefore, I turned it down, since... Take a moment and repeat that. Back up, say it again. So you're claiming that recordings are being shopped? Indeed. Shoppers have already arrived. The recordings have been mentioned to us, but the shopping aspect is, it is true that there have already been tapes leaked and distributed to people in Hollywood, but one individual contacted me to shop a specific video they had and to get in touch with the subject of the video to inquire about their interest in buying it before it was made public. This seems like a catch and kill to me. Yes, catch and kill. Can you identify the player? No, I am unable to identify the individual, but it was Mr. Combs. Well known? No, I am unable to identify the individual, but Mr. Combs was on the video, and I dare assume that this other individual is more well-known than Mr. Combs. Really? Really? You've seen it too? I've seen the video's stills. Alright, so that you can confirm that the other person in the video is clearly apparent, that it is genuine, and that it exists. If it is the individual in the video, there is no doubt about it. Additionally, I can tell that the film was obscene. My goodness, okay. We are aware that he recorded several actions at his house, aren't we? Additionally, it is likely that several covert cameras were there. Is it the topic of discussion? Indeed. In fact, this was in his Atlanta. Although there aren't any receipts for this, Jaguar Wright was among those who maintained that the recording was real and that it didn't improve Beyoncé's reputation. Jaguar really made her allegation months earlier. Diddy, and the Diddy. Oh, some freak-out Diddy supposedly passed over recordings with the Carters. Furthermore, how is Beyoncé doing? And there were G's all over the cassettes. According to Lil Rod's court filings, Mr. Jones learned that Mr. Combs had concealed cameras in each area of his house while he was living and traveling with him. Mr. Jones thinks Mr. Combs has recordings of sports, politicians, music label executives, and celebrities. This helps to explain why people believe Beyoncé would betray Diddy, but why would she do the same to Jay-Z? Although there are reports that she and Jay-Z have been married for a long time and are not in love, she is half of Hollywood's most prominent couple because of him, and he is the father of her children. Why would she damage it then? That most likely relates to the rumors that she has been attempting to leave the marriage for a while. And what better way for her to achieve so than to play the part of the shocked and betrayed wife and leave him when he and his closest friend are sentenced to prison? When allegations began to circulate that he was forcing her to take drugs, we realized how terribly he was treating her. Jaguar Wright has gone out on a few occasions to accuse Jay-Z of manipulating Beyoncé because he is so consumed with maintaining his power over her. He is a monster, and if he is, I know he is a monster. I kept waiting to see whether he would change his mind. Additionally, he keeps his wife by putting additional medicines in her throat. Not a girl. She then likened Beyoncé's predicament to that of Britney Spears and urged followers to launch a Free Beyoncé movement, arguing that she is stuck and a prisoner in her marriage. You guys are talking about Free Britney, and I'll tell you this now, you could start a campaign that says Free Beyoncé. Beyoncé is unrestricted. She is imprisoned in a cage made of gold, God forbid. If Beyoncé is incarcerated, she is in one of the priciest jails in history. She is indeed. She has also been observed around the clock. She isn't permitted to choose for herself. No, not in any kind. People believe she has a wonderful life. They tell her what to say, what to eat, what to drink, and what to dress. She works for her spouse. She is not his wife. It's a commercial agreement. She served as a dowry. That is absurd, but even more absurd is the fact that Jay-Z has acknowledged intentionally mistreating Beyoncé, and that's not even including the fact that he cheated on her. He remarked, "I said, don't embarrass me," instead of being mine, in his song 444. That was my suggestion that we go on steadily. "I still grieve for the innocence that left your eyes, and I'm sorry to all the ladies I played with because I was soulless. And because I don't live up to my promises, I'm all about your eyes, leaving with the soul that your body desires to be housed." Storm Monroe, a blogger, made audacious allegations last year that Beyoncé intends to proceed with the separation and file for divorce from Jay-Z after the authorities, PTB, industry, or whatever you want to call them, finish with Diddy, don't they? Additionally, this will continue for a while. However, I suppose you could argue that the public humiliation occurs mostly after the release of the big documentaries. Jay-Z is the next to be revealed when Diddy is finished, isn't he? When she began opening new enterprises here and there, many believe she was preparing for her major move. She has launched around 2 globe tours and 3 new companies in the last 2 years. Although this is not the first time she has established enterprises, people are very distrustful of her since she has been doing so much back-to-back. Everyone might have sworn that Jay-Z's lawsuit for SS would be the final straw for her, but that wasn't how things turned out. Jay-Z cheered when the case was finally dismissed, stating, "The fictitious story they made was hilarious, if not for the gravity of the allegations. I wouldn't want anybody to go through this. It is impossible to ignore the anguish my wife, kids, loved ones, and I have experienced. It's unclear today if Beyoncé wants to break up with Jay-Z, or whether she will ever be able to do so. However, there are currently rumors that she may be making a last-ditch effort to cooperate with the federal government. We will, however, continue to watch this drama to see how it develops until Diddy's trial begins. Please share your thoughts on this with me in the meantime, and then watch the following video.